Welcome back to the Finding Success radio show, where you have Justin Bozak, Stephen Libman, and we got Andy Chase in the studio with us today. Thanks for joining with us, man.
Thanks for having me. That's pretty cool. It's nice being a guest on somebody else's show.
Yeah, right, for once.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I won't curse, I promise you.
More pressure.
You promise us. So Andy's on The Hawk, right? So that's where you guys have recognized his voice from. And that's why he's saying it's nice to be a guest on somebody else's show, because it's usually him on this side of the microphone telling everybody else what they're doing and what's going on.
Nobody wants me. Nobody really wants me, actually. So
I want
it's nice
you.
to be wanted. So, but no, I appreciate being here. This is cool. This is
man.
cool.
Well, you have a ton of experience behind the microphone, and hopefully we can pick up some tips and tricks from you.
I don't know about that.
So why don't you give us a little bit of a background, kind of where you came from, what you're doing now, and what the future looks like?
Well, right now I'm on 105.7 The Hawk. I do afternoons.
Yep.
I've been doing it full-time on The Hawk now for 11 years. But back when I was just trying to find myself, I guess, after I graduated high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to community college for a year. After that, I went to the University of Buffalo for a year. And they recommended me to find another avenue of education. So I didn't do very well there. I started getting that bug for communications a little bit. I went to Buffalo, but it was more of a communication and science, not really like broadcasting. And I really didn't. So I kind of partied. And I came home. And then I wanted radio. I got that bug. One of my biggest influences, I think, was Scott Shannon from Z100 when he came when he came to New York, I guess in the 80s. And it was a Z Morning Zoo. I'm like, what is this? This is like awesome. Like, it was just wacky. It was fun. And that's when I started getting that radio bug. And then when I came after University of Buffalo, I kind of wanted to go with radio. Syracuse is a great college, great university, just very expensive, couldn't afford it. And I went to Kingsborough Community College in Brooklyn, and they had a great radio station. And it was run like a commercial radio station. And I just got involved. And from there, I'm like, I like this.
So what was it about radio that drew you to it? Just kind of...
I don't know if it's just how real it is. Obviously, music. Of course, music was great.
Yeah.
I like all genres of music. And it was just something that was like, I was also a big believer. I need to do something I want to do. I can't sit behind a desk and just push papers. I can't do that. And
so Andy Chase wasn't going to be an accountant?
No.
Or if he was, he'd be a terrible.
Yeah. And yeah, I got that radio bug. And all of a sudden, from being a terrible student at the University of Buffalo, taking classes that I really didn't care about, and my terrible GPA, next thing you know, I'm taking classes. I was doing what I like to do, at school, part of the radio program, taking radio classes, and my GPA was 3.8, 3.7, where that was unheard of for me.
Well, you were interested, right?
Yeah.
I kind of did the same thing with my, with college. I was going for accounting and didn't like it, didn't want to do it.
You were going for accounting?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It was a family thing,
My brother's
Do you have a family of accountants?
Well, yeah, dad and grandfather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Open up the Bozak firm?
Yeah, no more debits or credits.
Bozak, and Bozak.
No, it just wasn't my cup of tea, and then you had to take English, and I hated that class. It was terrible, and I was just like, get me out of here. Can't do it.
Yeah, so I mean, we touch on this a lot during this show. I think the crux of success, regardless of kind of how you define it, is you got to be free to do what you like to do. I mean, how many people end up going into careers because their dad did it or their grandfather did it or their school told them this is what you'd be good at, and they're just miserable, right? And then you have to go pivot when you're 25, 30 years old and go find something brand new. Sure. So I think it's okay to take the time to figure out what you like to do, what you're good at. I think school does a really poor job right now of telling kids, oh, you're getting C's in math. We got to make sure we focus on math, get that up to a B or an A. So I disagree with this, right? I'm teaching my 6-year-old right now, you're crushing math. You're not so great at this. Let's continue to crush math.
Right.
Let's make sure that we're doing okay over here, right? We're not failing classes. But to focus on your weaknesses rather than your strengths, I think puts you in that position where you're kind of always feeling inadequate, never really feeling fulfilled. So yeah, if you take the long approach and say, this is what I want to do with my life because I like it, it's interesting, I'm getting a 3.8 now when before I was getting kicked out of school, what's the difference there? It's interest.
Yeah.
And if you focus on your interests, there's the cliche, right? Do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But the
You know
truth
what?
is,
I tell people all the time when they're coming to the studio, I say, it beats working. I say that. And
Yeah.
and it's like, it's cheesy, whatever, but it's kind of the truth. I mean, I'm in a beautiful studio. I got music. I'm talking. It's my opinion. And I'm having fun doing it, you know? I know a lot of people who are making a lot of money, but are miserable at what they do.
Yeah.
They're miserable. And I'm not making a lot of money, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'd like to make more money, of course, but I think it'll happen. You know, I believe it will, you know? But you look at some people who are just miserable and they've got all the money in the world, but I couldn't live my life that way. I just couldn't. You know, I couldn't do it. And you can have all the cars and houses and all that, but if you're just miserable and you wake up every day, oh, I got to go here and I got to do this and whatever,
Right.
I couldn't do that, you know? And it's good to, I personally believe, just do what you love.
Yeah.
And I think the money, the reward will be there. It'll get there. It might take a while.
Yeah.
You know?
and the reward might not be financial, right?
Sure.
I mean, eventually, I agree. Like, eventually it'll pay off. But you got to sow a lot of seed,
Yeah.
right, before it gets there.
I mean, I'm 48 years old. I've been working full-time here now, full-time for 11 years. I've been doing radio since, started in the 90s, though. And it was a long haul for me to get a full-time job in this business. I don't have the greatest voice. You know, I think my delivery on the radio is definitely not your standard, hey, you know, like that, the guys that you hear on the radio, whatever. I'm myself. It's personality. And family told me, maybe it's time to start looking for something else.
Right.
You know, and meanwhile, I was bartending. You know, I was DJing in clubs and I was doing weddings and all that. And I stuck with it. I finally got my shot to be full-time when I was 38, to be full-time. I worked at WKTU in New York City for did weekends and fill in for 3 years. That's a union. It's great money, whatever. I loved it. It lasted 3 years. I worked at another local radio station for a bunch of years. You know, stations get sold. You kind of lose your job, whatever. But I stuck with it. And, you know, people told me, maybe you should my father's an insurance agent out in Chicago. And he's one of the things that he would love for me and my brother to do is just follow in his footsteps, take over his business. And he's very successful. He's very successful with what he does. But I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know? And I had that crutch to fall back on. You know what? I'm gonna leave radio. I'm just gonna go work for my father. And, you know, I'd be set.
Right.
You know, but it's not something I could do every day.
I think you had to start a radio division. So I mean, dedicating that time, you know, to run a business, you know, we know what that looks like. I mean, you're 60, 80 hours a week. If you don't love it, then what are you doing?
My father's 81. No, he just turned 80. He turned 80, and he's still going. And he wants to stop, but he can't. He just can't either, though.
He can't sit still.
You can't let it go.
Can't sit still, I think. You know, he says, I'm going to slow down. You know, and he can't, he just can't. And he's 80, and he's a very young 80. And he started to see, I think he would like to slow up maybe a little bit, but he still can't, though. And, you know.
That's probably his baby, right? I mean, he founded the company.
Yeah, I mean, it's just him. It's his own, he sells disability and life insurance. And when he was struggling, when he was, married to my mom, he was doing this job, and everything. And then he met some guy, whatever. He got to the insurance agent, and it was his calling. And he's been doing it for 50 years or something like that. So, yeah, he has a nice clientele. He has a nice business, and he's done very well for himself. So I'm very proud of him. Because he would say to me, you know, when your mom got married, I had nothing, and I was struggling to get by, and all I wanted to do is take care of you and your brother, and I couldn't afford to do certain things. You know, I had to go to my parents to buy your bedroom set, you know, when you were 10 years old.
Huh.
And it bothers him, you know, and it really bothers him and motivated him to bust his ass to have the life that, you know, that he has.
Yeah.
So.
It's a great story. I mean, you know, and what's great is it's not everybody's, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not your story,
Right.
But it was his, and it worked for him. And
Yeah.
you know, when we started our businesses, it was the same thing. It was like, well, how do I provide for my wife, but also fulfill what I wanted to do? I mean, I could go out and do any sales job, make 6 figures, but I can't work for anybody else. I'm unemployable. So,
Agreed.
Yeah, you seem difficult, actually.
yeah.
I feel the same way, though. I mean, and it was because my company closed and got laid off. And the previous job, there was a cap or limit on what I could do. So it's like,
Sure.
you got to take a little bit of risk, I think, at a certain point, and just kind of roll with it and see where it goes. I mean, you could always fall back on certain things if you're younger, but if you're in your 20s, take the risk now.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't wait. You can't take the risk when you're 40.
True. It's scary to think. It is scary to think about.
It comes with context. So, I mean, if you have a family
course.
and kids and stuff like that, then the amount of risk you can take is a lot less.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody's told me that. Or at least I don't listen. Seems like the bigger the risk, the bigger the...
But, it's even one of those things, like we were talking off air before, about when I go to a lot of career fairs and job expos and stuff with schools, and you see all the kids and everything. And it's like, learn a trade, learn something just to fall back on. Bartend, learn to wait tables, because, life's crazy. Mm-hmm. I'm in this radio industry where it's volatile. There's a lot of stations being sold. iHeart just laid off, I think, 1,000 DJs and lower market employees, and it's scary. And jobs are far and few between sometimes in this industry, especially now. And it's nice to have something to fall back. If you got to go bartending, you got to wait tables for a couple months just to find your thing. Do it.
It teaches you customer service too, which is like, I mean, whenever we were looking for salespeople, I always look behind a bar, or I always look to my waiter or waitress, because they are interacting with the public face to face, kind of on the fly, all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they're not getting rattled and they're just nice and they're personable, and I'm like, I mean, you can hire for culture and teach anybody a skill set.
Sure.
Right? So if people are really good at that, so waiters and waitresses out there, right? Just be aware. I mean, I've been offered jobs when I was a waiter and when I was in college, waiting tables or bartending. People were like, hey, what are you doing after college?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing this. They're like, man, I'd love for you to come and work for us. I'm like, really? Well, that's interesting. Why? Oh, you're just really personable.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so
yeah, I mean, it's a skill set to have.
That's hard to learn too. I mean, that's something where if you're not personable, to get people out of their shell, tough thing. I've had some smart people come through the door that should have been very successful, but the personality thing
fell short.
And in real estate.
Did we talk about this before? The guy who takes his the new hires out to breakfast?
Yes.
We talked about that on the show before. So have you heard this?
Amazing.
I think so.
Inc. 500 company or Fortune 500 company.
I heard about that, yeah.
He brings them out and he makes sure that the waitress gets their order wrong because he wants to see how the employee would act under pressure about something so stupid and how they treat the service person. I love that story.
It's true, though. It's how you treat people.
Yeah.
It's, everybody should deserve to be treated like a human being and with kindness, and so to speak. I look at it, life is too short, not to be too cliche, but there's so many people that have it so far worse. I don't know if changing gears a little bit. Like I do a lot of, with the radio station, I do a lot of work with Ocean of Love. And it basically, Ocean of Love is an organization that helps out families whose kids have cancer. And you see these kids, and you see and what they're going through with treatment and chemotherapy, and they're bald, and they have PICC lines in them, and they have no energy, and they smile still. And these parents, they gotta, they're dealing with, they have other kids who are healthy, and what they're going through, you're having a crappy day. We all have crappy days, but the grand scheme of things, what's your problem? People with road rage. You see these videos of people with road rage, and it's like, what's wrong with you? It's like you're mad because somebody didn't put their directional on when they were turning, and then you got to it's like to have that nasty attitude, to be negative all the time. It's just not worth it.
Yeah,
it's you'll be miserable. And when you look at it, like what I said with some of these families and these kids, we do this big fundraiser every year where we raise like $105,000 for Ocean of Love. I live on a billboard. It's crazy. We could get into that another time, whatever. And I'll be out there in the rain and the cold and everything. And there was one year, I'll never forget, I was just taking a nap in a tent, and one of the families brought their kids by to drop off a donation just to say hi. And I was in the tent. I think I was just kind of taking a nap, and all of a sudden I hear like, Andy, they're like, come out of the tent. And I come out of the tent, I poked my head out, and there was this little boy downstairs. He had no hair on it. He had no hair. He lost it all from chemotherapy. And he gave me a big smile, and he gave me a thumbs up, and he said, I love you, to me. And it just crushed me. And I think I still get kind of emotional about it, because it's like, this kid, what he's going through. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it really crushed me, and it made me just put things in perspective. It's like what he's going through and everything. It's like, life is too short to be upset, angry, and just to be miserable all the time. And it made me really realize, like, puts things in perspective.
Yeah, and people are. I don't know. They walk through this world and they're just angry. They're upset. And look, I know it's all based on. There's a root issue, right? Mm-hmm. There's a root cause as to why people are flipping out on the road. It goes deeper than that, right? The problem is that we live in a broken world, right? And people are just not connecting with each other. They have relationship problems, and then it explodes out. But yeah, when you look at these kids, right, that are going through more than most of us ever will, and how they handle it with such grace and gratitude.
They still want to be kids.
Yeah.
And the parents are the ones, the ones that like are really like are stressed out all the time because they don't know what each day is going to bring. And they have, they still have other siblings. They have other kids in their household, and it's like, and you get sick, you get the flu, you go to the doctor to give you a prescription, you go home. Okay, fine. But like these kids too, like they're going to get their treatment. They could be in the hospital for 4 months, for 5 months. And
life hits the pause button for the whole family. Absolutely. And it's like you're taking the Z-Pack for your flu, whatever. You see these kids. It's just a row of medications and things they're on, and it's like. It makes you realize that things aren't that bad. And yeah, I'll be having trouble paying your bills and things like that, or relationships are bad and whatever it is. But it's not as bad as some of these families.
Yeah. Well, you can figure that out, So a kid in the hospital that's going through chemotherapy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that can't be solved, right away. And you even going through that process, in a year, you could be gone, but it could come back. You never know. But
and just resilient. And all the other side effects that go with it,
right?
So they get rid of the cancer in your body, but then your immune system's been compromised from all the chemo you're on, and you're not going to be the same again. You can't run the way you did. Sorry if I just kind of threw everything off course. By the way,
no, not at all.
That's great talk.
But
so how'd you get involved with them in the beginning? How'd the Oceans of Love charity event start, and how were you chosen to go live in the tent on top of the billboard?
Well, one thing
came up with that idea?
It's with radio, you try to just give back to the community. Radio is such a, if you're watching TV shows, you can't connect with the television show like people connect to radio. Mm-hmm. People could call a radio station, listen to, hey, could you play the song for me? It's not like you could call friends on TV and talk to Jennifer Aniston and things like that. But, back when I started doing radio, WPLJ was where I first really got going. We used to do a huge fundraiser. Scott Shannon would do it at Blythedale Children's Hospital upstate New York. And this was a hospital of really like kids with just a lot of different needs, whatever. And you're seeing these kids and helping out and just seeing the fate. When you could help a family out or help kids out just for being in their presence or just for making sure that they care and the smile that gets on their face, it just was one thing that's really resonated with me. So I always thought like, charity was just helping out the community any way you can is very important. Whether if you can help out, if you can't help out financially, just volunteer. So just being in radio, a big part of it is doing charity stuff, going blood drives, whether it be, or volunteer fire companies having a spaghetti night and helping us promote it, whatever it might be. And when I first moved down to Jersey Shore back in 1999, I guess it was, B98.5 started, and the company was looking to do a fundraiser to help out a local organization. And one of the things we found out was the big cancer cluster in Toms River and how many families have kids who have cancer. We learned about Ocean of Love, and we were blown away by it. So then we were trying to figure, and we were like, we got to help. This is local. Nothing wrong with the Red Cross or the American Cancer Society, but Ocean of Love, it's Ocean County.
Right.
They help out your neighbors, your coworkers, whoever it might be, person next door where you live. So we're like, we got to involve. So we're just trying to come up with different ideas and, okay, let's live on the roof of a building. And I guess we found out some radio station maybe somewhere does this billboard radiothon. So we're like, okay. So I was just doing promotions. I wasn't on air. So our morning show at the time, we found a billboard in Brick, and we turned that into our broadcast facility for the week. And the radio DJs, they lived up on the billboard, and they ate up there, they slept up there, they broadcast from there, and we had people come on by and drop off money. And I think our first goal was like $25,000 because we didn't know what was going to happen.
Sure.
And it worked out,
Nice.
When I think it took about a week because it was new, nobody really knew. But it was one of those things where it was, people saw the importance of it because it's local. And then every year we increased to 25,000, 50,000. And then we moved to a different billboard in Point Pleasant. And it finally got up to, it was 98.5, so we raised 98,500. And then when B98.5 went away because the company was sold, we came to the Hawk, a bunch of us, and this company felt like we got to continue doing this, so we turned it to 105,000. So when it finally got to the point where we didn't have a local morning show because Free Beer and Hot Wings, they're syndicated. So our afternoon jock at the time, his name was Dr. Phil, he was the guy that was living up on a billboard. Eventually he left. The afternoon jock, the guy Race, was afraid of heights.
He's not going up there.
He's not going up there, so there's Andy Chase.
There you go.
So, but I was honored to do it. I wanted to do it. I've always been part of it from on the ground. You know, being the DJ underground, working with the DJ up top. And when I had the opportunity to go up there, I'm like, I'm running with this, and we're going to make it bigger and better. And this thing has turned into like
It's huge.
a monster.
Yeah.
You know, our goal was $105,700, and there's been years when I'm taking $20 bills and throwing it down because we have a deadline. We have to be off the air by 6 o'clock, and we're like, all right, we're at 104,000. We're like, come on, people, we need to come out. And now we've gotten to a point where, and it's a great blessing. And we still challenge ourselves every year because I'm afraid that we're not going to make it.
Sure.
But this year we raised the most money ever. We raised $148,935.
That's amazing.
And we did it like in 3 days.
Wow.
Like almost because we ended early.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables that go with this, but we used to take 5 days to do it. Now we did it like 3.5 days, 4 days to do it.
Yeah.
And it just shows that the power of radio, the power of the community.
Yeah.
How generous this community is. You know, Tom's River, Ocean County, it gets bad rap from the Jersey Shore and all that.
Mm-hmm.
People are, oh, it's Jersey, Seaside, whatever. These are some of the best people I've ever been around. One of the best communities I've ever been around.
Yeah, I mean, if we can do anything with this radio show right now, it's proving that stigma that's been attached is just it's completely null and void. I mean, everybody that we've had in this studio is talking about, you know, life and love and compassion and giving back and nonprofits in a way that just blows me away. I mean, we're grateful to be around people that are doing that stuff. And for people that don't know, the nonprofit space, $150,000 goes a really long way.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I think there was a study done by either Harvard or Stanford that said that nonprofits make dollars go like 1 to 3 for where the business world does.
Okay.
Right. So giving $150,000 is like really giving almost $500,000, $450,000 because of what they do, like, and how they make that dollar go so much further just because they have to. Right.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have to carry a lot of the overhead, so when you're doing
a lot of
states,
volunteers, right,
governments-
and a lot of gifts, and so even that, right, $150,000, great. Now I can go and say, hey, Mr. Printer, you know, what kind of discount can you give me on this? And they're willing to give back, and so there's a lot of hands that make light work in these organizations, and that's no small feat. That's a lot of fun too, to be able to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, and it's just rewarding, you know. And you know when it's just, I think also just the thing that's staying in your community. It's helping your neighbor out. It's, you know, the whole cancer cluster happened 30 years ago. I think Ciba-Geigy, when that whole thing came out. There's still so many kids who are still being diagnosed with cancer. Ocean Road, they still have like 60 active families they're taking care of, and they help out everything. You know, gas cards for these families to go back and forth for treatment because they have to go to Philly. They got to go to New York City.
Right.
You know, the utility companies, eventually they don't care. They'll shut your lights off. So they make sure the lights don't get shut off. You know, during the holidays, these families can't think of like, oh, Thanksgiving, buying presents for the other kids. So they'll make sure. But Ocean Love steps in for just every day. I always say, if a kid said to Ocean Love, I want a polka dotted pink bicycle, Ocean Love is going to find somebody. They're going to find it somehow. They're going to make it happen. And they're an amazing organization. And there's a lot of good organizations as well. But when it's local, when it's in your community, that's when it really, really like.
Yeah.
You get to see the impact.
Yeah, like, you know, you watch the Jerry Lewis telethon, and they got Coca-Cola donating, $75,000, or you got Pepsi donating $100,000. When we're doing this radiothon, it's kids taking a Ziploc full of change and dropping it into the bucket. That's awesome. You know, we've got volunteers who are on the side of the road with boots, and they're going up to cars, and people just dropping $1 or $2 in, and it's just $5. There's some big donations, you know, some very generous donations, and it's just a very generous community, and it's nice to be part of. If I left this company, if I left, you know, the Hawk, it's tough because like that charity stuff I do, and that I don't know, like, you know, I'd feel guilty like leaving them. Like
Becomes a part of you.
Yeah, doing it a long time, and I like getting involved in other things. You know, with the Tom's River Field of Dreams, that Justin's involved with as well, and you as well.
Yeah.
helping out community and a special needs playground. I'm fortunate. I don't really know many people. My family, thankfully, healthy, but there are a lot of families that need this. And just being a part of that and helping out as much as I can, just getting the word out about this special needs playground that's going to be here in Toms River.
Yeah.
Just to help out. It's rewarding, I don't have the paycheck that I would like, but I'm very happy and blessed because I could give back to the community. Well, I can't write a check for $5,000, but if I could get out there and promote it and help out and then other ways,
that could be worth $20,000.
Right, exactly.
Just the moment, just the time, and the attention.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great having you on board for all these different things.
No, it's rewarding.
Yeah. But it fits. We know it's true. You know what I mean? So we know that this is something that you're passionate about. So
right.
Those are the kinds of people that I think that we want involved in projects like this.
Sure. Yeah, people say, like, when we first did it, it might have been a stunt, maybe also for the radio station to get in the headlines, local DJ living on a billboard, everything. And it's not that anymore. Maybe it was the very beginning. I cry at the end of this, because when we hit our goal or somebody makes a huge donation and we hear their story and everything, it's real. This is real life. It's heavy stuff. So it's not just a radio stunt. Like I've had some people in companies I worked for, it's a lot of time that the radio stations put in. We might have to, maybe we might not be able to do this year. And it's like, we have to do this year. It's more. It's not just a radio stunt. We're not playing as much music as we normally do, and it's bigger than that. So
yeah. Well, but today we're talking about how to just love on some people, talking about some nonprofits, how to give back to the communities. So this is all stuff that we always talk about on this show because, I don't think success is tied to the dollar, right? It's tied to how you feel giving back, how you're influencing other people. We were just talking a little bit on air about some people that we know that are really successful, but maybe not the best representation of treating people the same across the board and in a healthy way. So there's a lot of downfalls to, I think, financial success, and I think there's a lot of ways that you can look at yourself as really successful by giving back and kind of just looking at human beings in the right light, right?
Absolutely. You surround yourself with good people. They're gonna help. We were talking off air. You surround yourself with a good team, and you don't have to work as hard. Take care of them. Treat them like human beings, with respect, and they're going to work for you.
Yeah, some of the best advice I ever got was your people don't work for you. You work for them. You wake up every day and try to figure out how to make their life easier, their job better. And in turn, as the leader, you win. Because as they win, right, a rising tide raises all ships. It's your company. So you win, Justin, when your people win.
I got to write that down. That's very, very true.
It's true.
It's all long term, So the people that cycle through employees, they'll never get ahead. You got to play the long game. So whether you're hiring agents or hiring employees, they have to be a good culture fit. And like you said, you got to make them happy, and that's part of the job that I think people that are bosses or leaders, they just don't get. You got to keep your people happy. You got to show them progression and that they can win and that they can advance, because otherwise you're going to say, well, what am I here for? You know? He can do it all himself anyway, or I'm easily replaceable. Yeah,
another leadership quote that I heard that resonates really well is, people don't leave companies. People leave people.
Absolutely.
Right? If you've ever left a job, you probably left your boss, right? You weren't leaving because the company was holding you down, right? You probably had a personal issue somewhere with somebody, a boss, a colleague, or whatever, right? So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I'm looking back, right, of all the people that have left me. And I'm like, well, what did I do to have those people decide to leave me as a leader, not my company, right? Because the company looks good. We're doing good stuff. But I think that's a good barometer to recognize is like, people don't leave businesses, they leave people.
Let me ask you a question, because you said it took you years. A couple of things I've been listening to you say, Steve. You're saying, like, it took me years to figure this out. It took me years to figure this out, whatever. Were you a tyrant? Like, were you a I don't want to curse, but were you like a bad boss? Like,
no.
Do you think? Or, because you seem laid back. You seem like you're a good person to work for. So I was wondering, like, if you were like that type of person where you would just kind of weren't good to the people you worked with.
So in studio, talking about all this stuff, right, it's easy to have an easy conversation. When things go wrong in a business, right, and you have a lot of money on the line or your family's well-being on the line and stuff, stress comes.
Sure.
Stress comes for leaders all the time. What I didn't do was hone my skill set as a leader. So the jump from entrepreneur, when it was just me and my business partner doing all the work, right, for 5 years, that's how our business started. It was just us doing everything. And then we started to hire and scale, and we needed to learn that leadership and that management piece, right? So, not a tyrant by any means, wasn't difficult to work for, but didn't give people the tools that they needed to succeed because I didn't know how to lead them properly, right? So the difference between saying go get this done, right, and showing somebody how and coming alongside of them and giving them the tools that they need to say, hey, let's go get this done together so that next time you can go get it done by yourself, it was a learning curve. And
Sure.
I think leadership, like anything else, can be learned, but you need to focus on it. You need to study it. I mean, some of the best leaders in the world, right? I mean, we were with Echelon Front in San Diego in October of last year. Echelon Front is a leadership company all run by former Navy SEALs.
Wow.
You want to learn leadership?
Sure.
It's a great place to learn, right? Because their decisions were life and death.
Yeah.
Our decisions are just business, right? So when you start learning leadership from guys like that, and they teach you how to have the mental toughness, the emotional quotient, the ability to deal with and make decisions under duress, then you gain that extra knowledge, and you can do it better. But you have to put yourself in stressful situations to do it. So when I say over the years, it's because I've put myself in many stressful situations and I get better every time because it becomes easier to deal with because the stress doesn't create the anxiety that it used to, right? So, no, I don't think I was terrible. Some of my former employees might disagree, but I mean, I think overall we were always trying our best to do our best, but it's a skill set that you don't have, so you're not doing that great yet, right?
What do you think? I'm just curious. I mean, I'm 48, and you could see next generations who are getting into the workforce. They've got a little bit of a different attitude when it comes to life and things. Some people want to use that term snowflake, whatever. Do you see, are you nervous about the future? Because it seems like also, even the blue collar guys, nobody wants to work.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my friends who have construction business, landscapers, nobody wants to work. They want to, they want to make this money. They only want to work till, they want to work 4 days a week. They want to have weekends off, or, do you see there being an issue? You think?
Yeah.
What do you think, man? I don't hire a lot of millennials, so I don't know yet.
Yeah, I think people just need time to adapt. I think it's going to take longer for some of our younger generation.
They're more coddled, you think, a little bit more?
Yeah, a little more coddled.
Everybody got a trophy.
Yeah, everybody got a trophy. so these kids haven't been through a recession yet, so they don't know what it looks like to work and then be laid off. A lot of them are still, live with the parents and stuff, which I think is cool, save money. But I think a lot of people think it's a little easier than what it really is.
So that's what scares me, I think, the most about your question is the idea that entrepreneurship is sexy, right? And it's cool. And, I can go out and make my own brand and build my own business, and everybody could do it, right? Gary Vee talks about
made it easier now, but again,
it's probably easier now because
crashes,
you can have a social media business or whatever, right? But Gary Vee talks about this a lot on his podcast, where he's talking about the suicide rate of entrepreneurs and business owners. It's through the roof.
Really?
It has more. It's skyrocketed over the last decade.
Wow.
And I think part of what that is predicated on is what you were just talking about, which is people thinking it's easier, maybe not being as hard of a hustler and saying, I just got to go do whatever it takes, and thinking that it's going to come to them a little bit easier, and then recognizing that when you get your teeth kicked in, it still hurts, right? So
how do you bounce back when you haven't had your teeth kicked in yet?
Right.
Or
you haven't been
when
taught
you were
how to have that.
and you live this life on social media, and people start finding out that it's not reality, and then kind of things start kind of crashing down around. So, I think those opportunities, they're short-lived too. So like the Instagram famous thing, so many kids and so many youth have been able to make money on those platforms that way. But those algorithms are changing now, and things are changing where your reach and then your ability to make money. I mean, if you're not saving, something happens. We get a president in that, wants to raise taxes, and things kind of start leveling out or crashing a little bit. they're going to go through some stuff that they never went through before, and they're not going to have the people around them to know how to pull them out of it, because they're probably not surrounded by other people that have been able to survive, a crash.
I think the younger generation, like the millennials, I think though creatively, what they're coming up with is amazing. You watch Shark Tank and you see all these ideas and pitches. You're like, wow, like that's awesome what they're coming up with. But it's like, they think it's that easy. You're going to go in, I need $150,000 for whatever.
Because it's always put in front of them, like, right, the Shark Tank. Even that is, oh, look, these guys just popped up on Shark Tank and they got $1 million investment, and in a year they'll be multimillionaires. Usually those companies have been in business for years, and they've been struggling and going up and down before they get on that show.
You hear these, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you hear these businesses and, they might be making, their sales, a couple $1 million in sales, but they're not turning a profit.
Yeah. Profitability matters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I think to the core of your question, like, it's a work ethic issue, right? Yeah. And I think that starts in the home. I think that starts, before they get out of college. I mean, there's a lot of studies that have been done now, too. The average GPA is up almost a full grade from like the mid-'80s.
That's fake.
Right? Well, so that's a problem. Like, where's that come from? You know where it comes from? It comes from mom and dad kicking down the door of the professor and crying about the fact that you need to give my daughter a better grade or my son a better grade. And so there's this whole thing, right? When your kid comes home with a bad grade, help them, work on the work ethic, teach them how to persist through. Don't go crying at the teacher, right? So now that I get better grades and it's easier to get those grades and everybody got a trophy. And I mean, what we're doing as a culture and as a society is teaching people that failure is bad, when that's not true. Failure is good if you learn from it and can apply the wisdom that you've learned from it into the next stage of life.
What do they say? It's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get it up.
That's right.
Just got to get back up.
Well, a lot of them don't know how to do it. So if you're sheltered as a kid, you never worked a job, you didn't do chores around the house, and then you go through school, which is one thing. I think you're sheltered in school too, because it's a fake environment a lot of times. You're not being prepared for real life. And then when you get to real life and you see what it is, a lot of kids are just not prepared for it. They don't know what it takes to work, 8 hours a day, let alone as an entrepreneur, 12 to 14 hours a day, and then have all the stresses and things. So,
do you have a safe space? No.
Safe space is working,
exactly. But I'm saying, these universities, like the college level, they got these safe spaces where nobody's going to hurt you. You're not going to hear anything bad.
That's real?
Exactly. That's the problem.
I've been hearing about this. Is it real, though? I think it is real.
They do. A lot of these, they got these safe spaces where, even during Halloween, some costumes, they're not acceptable and things like that. And it's like, what do you learn? You're going to college. That's what you're supposed to learn. You're supposed to learn life experiences.
Yeah, how to deal with people.
How to deal with people, right? And people are very triggered now. It's unbelievable how angry it is, and whether it's because of whatever it might be, it was building up before this current administration. So, like you said about society, it's GPAs are up, it's fake, and kids are not getting that experience, that real world experience growing up as a kid. Get dirty, go play in the mud,
So I had to look this up, right? Because what's a safe space in college? I had to look it up because
You never heard of this?
I mean, I've heard of it, but so the term safe space refers to places created for individuals who feel marginalized to come together to communicate regarding their experiences about marginalization, most commonly located on university campuses, but also in workplaces, as in the case of Nokia.
Really?
So I guess now even corporate entities have safe spaces. Just so you know, if you apply at Integrity Holdings Group, you will not be offered a safe space because it's just not going to happen.
We only have spaces where you can hustle.
Right.
So that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what feeling marginalized would look like other than, you feel kind of like a victim, right?
You're wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Like that's people... Like in a safe space, you can't wear that.
People get upset about that.
They get upset about that. You're wearing a hat.
Yeah, but guess what?
I think it's a land of excuses.
The world is not a safe space.
And that's what a safe space is.
And is it to be honest with you, like, okay, when you close a deal and you're winning and you're doing what you want to do, it feels good.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Not everybody could, and that's that. I think, that's where that struggle. Like, if you want to win, you're going to have to struggle, but it's a great feeling when, when I first got my first full-time radio gig.
Right.
And it was a struggle.
Years.
And then I was
in
like,
a battle.
Yeah, my father wanted to throw a party for me.
Yeah. Right.
It was one of those things, but it feels good. And everybody can't win. But if you're determined and, you put that dedication, that drive, you're going to get there.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is, by definition, not everyone can be above average.
Right.
Right.
It's by definition.
It's the life balance.
Not everybody can be a winner. Not everybody can be above average. Like, it takes work and effort and things like that to do.
Well, I think you don't want people to lose, but, if everybody was a winner, then what are you?
Right. Even now they're talking
the same.
That's good.
Now they're even talking about it with college degrees, right? So the Democratic Party, regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, the Democratic Party wants to make college free for everybody. Well, guess what?
Another waste of money.
If it's free for everybody, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Doesn't mean anything now.
Right?
That's the
because so it takes work and effort and a dedication and the commitment and all of these things to go through to make it valuable, right? And whether that's work experience or a college degree or anything, right? It's not valuable if everybody gets one. That's why the trophy for every kid is worthless. When your kids are 5 or 6 or 7, fine, right? I get it. But when they're 15 and they've lost, they don't get a trophy. Because losers don't get trophies. I'm sorry. Work harder on the off season, and next year maybe you get the trophy. And that's the fun part about competition. Now, the whole idea that competition is ugly, it doesn't train us up to want to be winners anymore, right? It trains us up to be mediocre, and that's okay.
It's okay to cry.
Right?
Crying is part of life.
Yeah.
If you're 12 and you lost, have a good cry.
Oh, man, I remember losing the hockey championship when I was like 14 years old, right? We were playing hockey, and we lost. Yeah. And it was brutal.
But look at like the Super Bowl. You saw 49ers players. They lost the Super Bowl. Grown men. They were crying.
Yeah. But
That's
they're
right.
going to come back. That's going to motivate them to be better next year.
And who was in the weight room on Monday?
Yeah.
Right? The losers were in the weight room.
Yeah. Sure.
So, yeah, it's an interesting commentary, I think, on what society has changed. And it's part of the reason that we are doing this radio show is because I think people think that there's some magic in success. And there's really not, right? It's hard work, it's dedication, it's finding people around you, finding your tribe, finding the mentors that can help you get there, finding the people that you enjoy working with. And one of the biggest questions that we always ask on this show is success principled and replicable? Can anybody do it, right? Or do you need this special sauce, right? So let me ask you, do you think anybody could have landed where you landed after many years in the business? You're talking about tens of thousands of people that probably want to be a jock, right? And there's fierce competition. Now there's radio shows. You're competing with 1,000 podcasts, including mine, right? So there's 1,000 different places to go and win or go and fail. So is success something that got you to where you are in your career that is able, that is principled and replicable?
I guess if you want it bad enough, yes. People say to me all the time, I would love to get into radio. I'm like, you're more than welcome to sit in the studio with me. You're more than welcome. And
how many come?
Exactly. That's my point. Very few.
Right.
Very, very few. And and I'm not going to be offended by it. No. People are like, I'm sorry to come in. I'm like, hey, if you want it,
right, you'll be here.
You'll be here.
Yeah.
Exactly. One of the things that I was taught when I was first moving up in radio, I was in promotions department, and I was at WPLJ, and I asked Kim Ashley, she was the DJ at the time, I asked if I could sit in with her, and could I kind of just watch, and she's like, absolutely. And she was told by somebody, a mentor or whatever, said, I'll be more than happy to teach you or let you sit in, but you have to pay it forward. You have to return it. So every time she told me that. So anytime somebody says, hey, can I sit in with you? I want to kind of learn the business. Yes, absolutely, because I'm going to return the favor. If I can help you, I'll be more than happy. I'm not going to no, you can't come in because you're going to take my job away. No.
Right.
But like you said, how many people actually come in? No, and I'm not mad at it. It's just they don't have that drive for it. They might be successful at something else, but they got to find what it is for them. So I think everybody can find success. You need to want it.
Yeah.
You need to want it.
I think desire is it. Yeah, how bad do you want it, right? How bad is that desire? Does it keep you up at night?
Like I said, my father has a very successful business in Chicago, and he's been doing it for 40, 50 years. And I could quit radio today and go work with him, take over his business, and I'll be set. I'd make a great salary. My future would be taken care of. I don't want to. I don't want that. That's not where my drive is. I think I'd be miserable doing it. I don't think I'd be as good as him. And I just think you need to do what you want to do. You got to find it.
Yeah.
And if it is something, just sit behind a desk and inbox, outbox,
right.
whatever. And that's what you do. Look at these teachers. They're not making great money.
No.
And they're babysitting these kids. They got to deal with it. And why do you want to be a teacher? It blows my mind, but that's where your drive is.
It's
That's
fulfilling to them.
Yeah.
It's
fulfilling to be able to help a student, You look at nurses, and you're changing bedpans and blood and this, or you're working with special needs kids and you have to change diapers, adult, whatever it might be. But it's that drive. It's what you want to do, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
And like you said, success might always be that financial reward, but it's just that the self-fulfilling reward part of it. So
it takes a lot of self-introspection, I think. I think you need to be honest with yourself. I think you need to look internally and go, what is it that I want to do? And if you don't know yet, that's okay. Go try a couple things, right? I mean, that's how I landed where I landed. I tried a couple things. I didn't like this. I didn't like that. Okay, now I like this. Letting other people dictate where you need to go, certainly a recipe for failure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and even with your parents, I mean, it's all well-meaning, right? Being an accountant, being an insurance sales guy, it's well-meaning. Hey, I worked my whole life to get this, and I could help you accelerate your learning curve here. Yeah, but I don't want to do that. I mean, how many kids do you know that go into the family business and do so begrudgingly, or don't go into the family business because that's just not for me? We're all different people, right? And we're going to go and do the things that hopefully make us fulfilled. And when you do that, then you have success.
And you got to listen. Listening is key. Be willing, be a little humble. Be willing to learn.
Right.
And that somebody's opinion or somebody's idea might be good. You've been doing it a certain way for a long time. Well, hey, that's a good idea. I should take somebody's opinion. Be willing to listen. And you could be 48, you could be 28, 18. You always can learn. You can always still go and learn something new. And it can't be too it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Can't.
I think it's a big success principle. Be teachable. Yeah. Always be teachable, right? Because if you're always teachable, once you stop learning, you're dead, in my opinion. I mean, there's always something new to apply, and what you can apply it to your relationships, you can apply it to your family life, you can apply it to your business life, you can apply it to whatever, right? But if you're listening to different people with different viewpoints in an open, honest way, then you have something to learn and to apply, and
you got to adapt. So what you knew in 1990 is probably no longer true in 2020. When it comes to business, and I see that a lot in my industry where realtors don't want to adapt.
Real estate especially is in the Stone Age, right?
Yeah, they just want to do things the way it was done before. It worked for me before, and I'm just going to continue to do it like that. And I understand why, because it was easy. But it becomes a point where, all right, well, do you want to see growth, or are you happy with kind of seeing your business fall by the wayside? So it always comes down to, all right, well, so how bad do you want it? If you're 60 years old, maybe you don't want it that bad anymore, which is fine, But
you're winding down.
Right, you're winding down, that's fine. But then what can I do for you? Why are you here? If I can't do anything for you, then I don't know. For me, it's kind of like that's a one-way street. That's not really what I'm looking for as a leader. I want people that are coachable, that are going to take the new things that are coming, and try to get ahead of the curve and try to implement those things so they can grow.
Yeah, and they probably don't belong on your bus anymore.
Right.
Right? I mean, if one of your core values is growth and they're not adhering to that core value because they don't want to grow or change or learn, then it's probably time for them to get off the bus.
They can tie in. I mean, I do think a lot of people do come in and they like to see kind of people doing those things. And maybe they'll glean off some things, here and there. But listen, I mean, it's just the way of life. I think in 2040, when we look back, and there'll be, I don't know, insane ways of doing business then. And at that point, I'll probably not want to be doing those things.
Well, flying cars, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be at the point. Yeah, I mean, for robots that will, walk you through a house. Who knows? But it's adapting,
Yeah.
So that's the issue, I think, with a lot of people. They don't know how to adapt.
Do you think the market we're in, obviously we're on the Jersey Shore. We have some, it's a middle class, middle upper class, would you say? Community. Like if you went to, say, Bumble Idaho. You think the tools that you were using now you could use there as well, or
Sure. I think with the internet and with social media, people can tap into it. I think that I know that the smaller towns or smaller areas, they're probably a little bit more behind the curve because nobody's pushing the envelope to do those things, and everybody's kind of just waiting to see who actually does it, who's going to put in the work and actually does it. I got a friend of mine and his wife's in like the Poconos area, and it was almost like they were 2 to 3 years behind. They're not doing professional photography. Nobody's doing video. So he knew what we did down here and what worked. She went, and she just within a year just crushed it. And she's like the number one agent within
Nobody
1
else is
year of
doing
being in business because everybody was kind of resting on their laurels. They just felt like this is just the way it's done, and nobody's pushing the envelope out here. And she came in and she wrecked it.
Yeah.
She's doing billboards, she's doing video, they're doing social media, and now they're playing catch up because now they've got to adapt, but now they're years behind because they're not in that mode to kind of build. They've been busy with everything else that they've got going on, counting their money.
Yeah, I mean you can't lay back.
Right.
You know, you got to figure out how to continue to grow, and even in our business, I mean we have competition, right? We have other people that buy apartment complexes and build self-storage facilities. So, like, what's going to differentiate us? And really, it's how we communicate with our investors. You know, they're part of the team, right? So we make it very accessible for them to be a part of the project, even if they're 500 miles away, you know, in terms of touching it, feeling it, putting live video streams up on it, giving them monthly rent roll reports and stuff. Like, you know, there's different ways to get out there and to make your business more accessible, more so now than ever before, right? So if you're not doing that, then somebody else is going to jump the line. They're going to get in front of your customer, right? Yeah. So
they're going to get the attention. So I think that's awesome because it tells the story of that project. So I follow it.
Right.
I'm not even part of the project, but I'm following the transition, and you know it's built, and it's pretty cool to see it.
Yeah.
So and now you're actually proving concept,
right?
Which is, I think, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and you're not even on the back end of it where you can log in like on your account and see the updated pictures and videos. And I mean, the stuff I put on social media is great, but it's a fraction of what the investors are getting.
What would happen? I always like to think about this, even like radio, the way it is. Say if somebody there's a plug, unplug the internet, like you know, like it just went away. Like we're back to.
Who would survive, right?
Yeah.
So this is a big piece of it that I've just been having this conversation recently.
Al Gore took the internet away.
So
massive disruption.
He gave it to us, I think.
So he invented the internet. Al Gore invented the internet.
Yeah. He says he did at least.
So what I find is interesting, and you guys probably are seeing this too and probably incorporating it back into your life. So everybody could do pay-per-click advertising. Everybody could do the massive social media stuff. And there's more competition in that space. So what we do is we make sure that we get on the phone and still make that personal connection with our investors especially, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people give us their hard-earned money, so we want to make sure that they're feeling good, feeling connected. But a lot of these guys just take money in, right? And then here's your pictures. Here's your reports.
Right.
But like, how many people are getting phone calls? We send handwritten notes, right, on their investment anniversary. Like a gift card.
Oh, cool.
Like, hey, man, thanks so much for trusting us with your hard-earned money. And so if they took the internet away, I'd still win because we'll figure out a way to win because all business is personal, right? That's all it is. It's connection. You can be connected more now because of the internet and because of social media, but cold calling, sending mail, that stuff is becoming a lost art because everybody's afraid to do it. It's hard to do. So the people that are going back to that, or at least implementing that as part of their business plan, I think are going to continue to crush it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'll still get on a plane and go see an investor in California and sit down and go have dinner with him because he gave me a big check that we invested into a great project. But face-to-face time, right? Like let's make sure that we're still connecting. We're all human beings. And at the end of the day, you'll never take away the fact that people do business with who they know, like, and trust. And how do you build those three things?
Yeah.
No, it's very true. I mean, you know, it's basics. So I think that's part of what the new millennials are going to struggle with is the face-to-face contact, talking on the phone.
So did we talk about that on this show too? I feel like we always do, right? Like make your kids call and pay their phone bill, right? Call somebody
my
and
daughter
pay their auto
last
insurance.
Week, car insurance.
Right.
I'm like, do it yourself.
Yeah.
She wanted me to do it. I'm like, no.
I can't text that in. No, you can. You have to call a human being. You have to solve a problem on the phone in real time. Can you do that? And it's shocking how many people cannot do that.
Well, I think it's crazy. I don't know how much time we got left, but even like in the schools, they're taking away analog clocks because kids can't tell time. Like they're getting rid.
That's insane.
It's first of all, you're a school. Teach them,
Right.
Teach them how to the big hand and little hand. But they're taking them out of schools because kids don't know how to read them. All they know is digital.
Yeah.
I
crazy.
still remember my Mickey Mouse watch. I was
Yes.
5 years
I
old,
got
man.
I got one now.
I have it in my. I actually have my mom's. It's in my bedroom. It's in my drawer.
Yeah.
From when, that I took after we cleaned out her house after she
I
passed
wasn't
away.
allowed to wear a watch until I learned how to tell time, and that was how I had to learn how to tell time.
Yeah, but they're taking them out of schools because people can't.
They don't want people to think anymore.
Yeah, just
You
feed me
kids.
information, right?
Damn kids,
Yeah.
get off my lawn. Like a bunch of
Kids
cranky
and
old
your
men.
music. Get out of
You
here.
hippies. Yeah.
So
Well-
what's ahead for the future for you? Anything on the horizon?
You know, I do want to make more money. I want to move up to I love where we are. We're in the media market. I would love to work in New York City. I would love to work for a big city and a big radio station, bigger market. But I do like being here as well. I like home. It feels homey here. One of the things I always wanted to do when I wish I would have done when I was in my 20s and 30s was lived in New York City. I love the energy of New York City. I'm a beach bum now, but I still love going up to New York City.
Sure.
I love that energy and whatever. But I also know people who did it. It was very lonely for them too. You're in a city with millions of people,
No connection.
no connections. I like to be more successful. I'm not done growing. I like doing what I'm doing. I want to further my career. If I could make it as a program director in this industry or market, whatever it might be, I want to do more. I'm always looking to try new things too. Maybe I'll give you guys a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
You never do know.
Be a good real estate guy.
Yeah, I just don't want to. I don't want to be too complacent with what I do. I love coming into work every day, and you kind of get into that routine and everything, and you get complacent. But I want to still grow. I'm 48 years old. I don't feel like by any means I'm old.
Just getting started.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I just love to be doing what I do. If I could help people out along the way with whatever it might be, just in general, just help them with their lives, even.
Yeah.
Well,
so far, man, you're doing a great job of that.
appreciate
Everything that you're doing here at the radio station, of course, Oceans of Love and all the other charities that you're a part of.
Thank you.
And thanks for being open and honest with us about, your kind of path to success. And certainly the biggest takeaway for me is, I want to still grow. I still want to learn. I still want to do other things. Because to me, that is where success lives. So that's the crux of it all. So thank you, everybody, for listening to the Finding Success radio show. Andy Chase, thank you for being in the studio. Justin Bozak, as always. I'm Stephen Lidman. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Finding Success Show. For more exclusive content and previous episodes, check out successradioshow.com. That's www.successradioshow.com.